What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Cozy here, coming at you with another deck tech video for the channel. And I gotta tell you, I actually kind of like this list a little bit because it is a color that's near and dear to my heart, really. It's the color that I actually started my One Piece journey with, and that is gonna be yellow. Not just any specific yellow, but we are playing the OP10 Eustass Captain Kidd. Everyone likes to make fun of this deck because it has a certain color that reminds people of, bodily excrements that we do on a natural basis, but that's okay. You know what? This character, or this leader, does stuff. Essentially, on your end of turn, you can turn the top card of your life face up, set one of your supernova type characters between a cost of 3 and 8 to restand, and it gains blocker until the end of your opponent's turn. So it does provide a little bit of survivability, but it also kind of puts a little bit of pressure on your opponent on knowing what your next card in life is going to be. And it could be a trigger, it could be a 2K, it could be a 1K, it could be a brick, it could be anything. But that's why we play yellow, because we like to gamble. And because I live in Vegas, I think this was a great color to really start out my One Piece journey with. So like always, we are going to start with our 2Ks, then work our way through the character list, through the events, and we're going to kind of talk about the deck as we go along. So stay tuned as we get started with our 2Ks. All right, guys, we are back with our 2Ks to start this deck off, and we do run 12 2Ks, which is a very defensive plan. I actually like this type of 2K build-up that I have. Of course, the first one that we got is going to be 4 copies of Capone Gang Beige, and just to make sure that we have everything looking nice and crisp, don't worry about that. All right, good enough. So it is 4 copies of Capone Beige. Great trigger to see off a life. Basically, it stops one of your opponent's leaders or characters from attacking on trigger, so that does save you an additional swing on there. But it's also a really good 2K if you just draw into it. Another great 2K that we run in this list that is in yellow is the 4 copies of Satori. On trigger, you can trash 1 card from your hand and play it as a 5K body if you want the extra pressure. But it is also a very solid 2K if you draw into it, because nobody really wants to pay 5 cost for a 5K. And then last, we have 4 copies of Mr. X-Drake himself. He is a supernova, so technically he is searchable in this deck, so a searchable 2K is always great to see in a deck list. His activate main is you can rest this character, and then if the number of your life cards is equal to or less than your opponent's, you get to rest one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. So you can kind of get rid of some pesky blockers early or even late game if you play the X-Drake, activate main to rest, and then rest a 4 cost or less, which are going to be a majority of blockers. So especially in like a Blackbeard matchup, you're going to rest the Vasco, you're going to rest Rebecca's in the Black-Blue Usopp list, you're going to rest the Lucky Roo if you're playing into Shanks, you're going to rest the Chopper blockers if you're playing into Red-Green Chopper, or the Zero list, or anything that really runs the animal package. This X-Ray is going to be really good to rest them characters out, but it's also a very viable searchable 2K to also see. And you can also give it blocker with your leader effect. So he kind of does a 2-part thing. He's going to rest the blocker, let you put pressure onto the board or put pressure into life, and then restand himself to be a blocker to protect your life. And so that's what our 2K list looks like. I think it's a solid 2K list. If you guys have any different suggestions, I'm always more than welcome to take them down in the comments below. I am always happy to listen to you guys and see kind of what we can build and what we can cook together here on the community with the channel. In terms of our 1 costs, we're only running 4 of the Searcher Luffy. On play, it's going to look at the top 5 cards, and you are going to look for 1 Supernova type card other than Monkey D. Luffy and add it to your hand. Then you place the rest at the bottom in any order. This is a very good opening card to pull out because you can pull things like the X-Drake or other things that we're going to see later on in this list. I will let you guys know what is viable to search off of this Luffy as we go along. So it is something just to be mindful of. I would like to open with this card in my opening hand to kind of get where this wants to go. Ideally, you want to see Luffy, 1 or 2 mid-game cards, and then 1 or 2 late-game cards that we're going to pull later in the list, just so that way you can kind of go on curve, essentially. Really, this deck likes to go first, I feel, in my opinion, just because of some of the more intrinsic things we do in this deck, but it does not mind going second either because we do have a lot of even curved costs. So that is something just to be mindful of going into the remainder of the list. For 2-drops, we do run 4 2-drops. First, this is the 2-cost Viola and the 2-cost Shirahoshi. The Viola is going to be really good, especially if we go later into the game. Early game, it is going to be a very good kind of, I'm going to search through my opponent's life and see kind of what they get and really try to disrupt what they would be getting in their hand as we swing into them, or to prep for some of the other cards where we're going to start burning down life and draining them out. The 2-cost Shirahoshi is a really good anti-black card, really, because on KO by effect, you're going to take the top card of your deck and you're going to put it into your life. So you're going to heal off the Shirahoshi. If you run into like a Rob Lucci, if you run into Blackbeard, that's going to pop it with like Doc Q or something like that. So it's a really good deterrent for them to not want to get rid of it. So it's going to stick on the board for a little longer, and it just gives you that extra protection as a blocker. In terms of our 3 costs, this is kind of where I got a little iffy on the list. I was kind of running out of slots. So I thought this was a really good idea to just play 2 copies of Roronoa Zero. It is a supernova, so it is searchable off of the Luffy. Basically, if you have less life than your opponent, he gains Rush. And then on trigger, you can trash 1 card from your hand. And if your leader has a supernova type, you just play it. So it's a really good early-ish kind of game card, especially if you're going against another 5-life leader and you take that first hit from them. You just play the Zoro and you start to get the rush down, and then he restands and becomes a blocker because of the leader effect. You could run that route, and he's just a little bit beefier of a blocker compared to like the 2K X-Drake. The 4-cost slot is definitely one of my favorite slots in the deck. I would say this and the late game are my 2 favorite spots in the deck. The first one is 4 copies of Basil Hawkins. Basically on KO, you trash the top card of your opponent's life. So he is going to be your leader effect target to make blocker, just so that way you can restand him or swing with him, restand, or just on the turn that you play him. You make him a blocker, and then you just instantly get KO'd by either blocking or letting it die to an effect, and then trashing the top card of your opponent's life, which if we play the Viola early, then we're going to know what that next card is going to be. So that way you know what to trash versus what you want to give into their hand. And then once the opponent hits 3 or less life, this Kikunojo, which we run 2 of, is going to be a menace, because on KO, if your opponent has 3 or less life, you are going to heal 1, and they are going to try to get rid of this as soon as possible. So if you're playing into a 4-life opponent, swinging once and getting that life automatically turns Kikunojo on. Conversely, if your opponent is on a 5-life leader, you do need to hit twice, because her trigger effect as well is if your opponent has 3 or less life, you're going to play this card. So just having this card in life, as an example, to then trigger it as a 6K body is just absolutely insane. And it's a free 6K swing every turn if they don't want to get rid of it, which means it's going to require them to have a 2K, which eventually they're going to run out of, and that 6K is going to become viable to hit. Our 5-cost slot is just 4 copies of our boy Gadatsu. Basically, his on play is we're going to KO one of our opponent's characters with the cost equal to or less than their current life total. So we could choose not to swing into them and get rid of a 4 or even a 5-cost body with just by playing the Gadatsu. So it's entirely up to us on how we want to do it. It is also the same thing. It is a 6K body that just swings really, really tall for us. They're probably going to want to get rid of it and there's really no repercussions after it hits the board for them to do so. But I like it, and I've always been a fan of Gadatsu, really, especially when I was on my NL days, and more so just wanting to make sure that we have some additional pressure with that 6K body. Our 6-cost slot, we are running 3 copies of the Demon Lady herself, Nico Robin. Basically on play, if your opponent has 3 or more life, we're going to go ahead and just have them trash 1. So if they're on 4 life and you just can't get through with the Kikanojo, just play a Robin. Cuts them down to 3 automatically, turns the Kikanojo live. And it's also a 6K swing. On trigger, we can play 1 yellow card with a cost of 3 or less from our hand, which we may not even ever want to really do unless we're going to play like a Luffy searcher for free on our opponent's turn to just search for additional counter or set up our board for when we go on our turn and really filter down the deck to try to find other things. But I personally just like to play the Robin and kind of go from there and see what it does. As we close out on our character list here, we are getting towards the end. Our 7-cost slot is going to be 3 copies of Trafalgar Law. So on play, we're going to reveal up to 1 Supernova type character card from our hand and add it to the top of our life cards face down. Keyword, face down. And then give up to 1 of your Rested Dawn to 1 of your Supernova type leaders. So really what you're going to do is when you have Kid, you're going to play the Law, reveal a Supernova type, which let's just say it is the Basil Hawkins. You're going to reveal it, put it into your life. We're going to put it face down in that particular case. Then we'll give that Rested Dawn to Kid, and we're going to be able to swing 6K to our opponent. Along with the other 6K swings that we are going to be running in this, I think like 6K is the name of the game in this deck. And then conversely, you can just flip that card you revealed face up because they already know what it is. Make the Law blocker, and congratulations, you have a 9K blocker on board. Our second to last character that we do run in this deck is going to be 4, count them, 4 copies of that 8-drop Kid character. So on play, we can go ahead and just rest this character, and your opponent just trashes the top card of their life. No questions asked, nothing like that. And then our end of turn, if your opponent has 2 or less life cards, you're going to draw 1, trash 1. So you're going to get some great hand filtering with this. And the beauty of having the Kid as your leader is you're just going to go ahead and flip that life face up if you haven't done so already. Restand and protect that Kid. He also becomes another 9K blocker for you. And then you get to filter through your hand. And so it's just going to be absolutely nuts to kind of see how this late game deck really does. Our final character that we run in this is 3 copies of the 10-drop Porcus D Ace. Basically on play, we're going to add 1 card from our deck to our life. And if we have 2 or less life, he gains Rush, and he's a 10K rusher. In most cases, I would probably just get the heal. And if I am at 2 or less, then great, he has Rush. But if we do end up bumping up to 3, that's okay, because I have other characters on board that's going to become a blocker with that extra life we just gained from the Ace. And that's really going to push us to see more triggers, more things to kind of push through and filter our hand down with the Kid, putting it at a 9K blocker, or having the Law, swing 9, restand and gave him a 9K blocker. So it really depends on kind of where you're at in the moment. But I feel with this type of game plan, it is a very late game heavy deck. And you kind of just want to drain your opponent's life before you start swinging life. So you're primarily swinging into their opponent's board and their rested characters to turn off their tempo while you continue pushing for yours. In terms of the events, we do only run 2 copies of Damned Punk. Its main effect is look at the up to 1 card from the top of you or your opponent's life cards and place it at the top or bottom of those life cards. Then you're going to KO 1 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. And then a trigger of draw 2, trash 1. It's going to be really solid to kind of really see that. I like it as a 2 of in this list, only because the other event we run, I do like it a little bit more to see more of, and gives us more chance to see it out of life and trigger. But this is a great thing, especially if they don't have the Sabo blocker active. You're just going to go ahead and pop any blocker that they have on play and really manipulate and look at your life, especially when you run 3 copies of the 0 cost event. You're the one who should disappear. As a counter, you can pitch 1 card from your hand and it gives your leader or character plus 3,000. Or the trigger, which I love the best, is if you are at 0 life as you trigger this, you can put 1 card from your deck to your life pile. So essentially you're resetting. This is a Enel leader effect. So this is something really, really great to see, especially if you played the ace the turn before and this went to your life and they weren't able to really do anything with it. You play down punk, you look and you're like, oh, that's a 0 cost. We're going to put that to the bottom of my life and set myself up for a reset. And I'm going to pop a body and I'm going to swing with tall characters to make into more blockers. Overall, I think this list, like I said, is a very late game heavy list. And Kid, he doesn't get all the credit that he deserves, but hey, I think this is a very solid list. I think it is very slow, but once the tempo starts going in your favor of burning life, having big bodies, and clearing out your opponent's board whenever they swing, Kid becomes unstoppable in the late game. So let me know what you guys think. Would you make any changes to this list? What recommendations do you have for this list? But more importantly, if you guys did like this video, 1, let me know by A, liking the video, duh, B, subscribing to the channel, and C, ringing that notification bell, and don't miss that next upload, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace and love, y'all.